Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am Deb Lutz, also known as Deluxe, and I am here to bring you a juicy 6-game slate. Super excited about this slate. This is my kind of slate. It's nice and manageable 6 games, and there's some really interesting options on this slate, some good, obvious pay-up options, some value due to some injuries. And we're going to have a lot of fun with this slate today. I'm going to take the time to walk through ownership projections for all 3 sites, game by game as we go along, since there are only 6 games to go over. So we'll be spending a little bit more time on each game. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to light them up in the chat and be sure to check in and answer them. And make sure you give us a thumbs up on YouTube, and that helps with the algorithm so that we can rise to the top, because we've been getting some good groups in here lately, and we want to make sure that we're getting credit and getting noticed and continuing to bring more people in. So it gets a lot of fun when we have everyone lined up in chat. So anyway, also note that we still do have our March Madness special. You can join for the rest of the month. I think there's about 10 days left now, and for $10. And so that's a real bargain, $1 a day to get all this information. We cover all the sports, and as many of you know, we've been, we have a lot of fun doing it, and we give out all kinds of information on Discord that you have to be a member if you want to be a part of Discord. And we'd love to have you. Great family atmosphere. None of that, kind of like all bros stuff. We're here to be supportive of each other and have a good time and win some money. So with that, I'm going to say hello to our chat, and some of our favorite folks are in there right now, including Stacks, who was first in. Wow, Stacks showed up like an hour and a half beforehand. So a big thumbs up to Stacks for not being able to wait. And he just like sat there, popped in, and waited for us to join. So thank you, Stacks. We've got DD, Damian Darby, the first of our double Ds in today. How's it going? Absolute power. Always an absolute pleasure to have you joining. Earl Pep Tyson. I like the Pep. What's the Pep stand for? Pep is his middle name. Earl, great to see you. Lucky to have you in here today. And Doug L., you've been a solid one for us recently, joining every day. Thank you for that. So appreciate you. And Travis Wyndham, as Coach likes to say, of the Wyndham Dynasty, has joined us as well. Hello, hello. Great group in there. I love it. 5. Earl already wants the top 5 FanDuel plays and a value play. No problem, Earl. I'll make sure to get to that. All right. We'll take care of you for sure. And Abel Ramos. How's it going, Abel? Good to see you. Yes, we are all here together. More folks are coming in. I'll catch you after the first game or two, but let's get things started here. So, like I said, I'm pretty excited about today's slate. Not a scarce slate at all. Kind of juicy, actually, because we have a couple of big games and, like I said, a bunch of value. So let's kick things off. What I'd say is kind of an average game on the night. It's their 7:00 game, Washington at Orlando. It's a 226 spread. It is a tight game. Washington's favored by 1. So we're going to get a full run of minutes from the starters here. And we do have a couple of starters out as well. Not exactly the sexiest game. You got a couple of slower paced teams, decent defenses, a lot of young guys playing. But like I said, because it's going to stay close, guys will be playing a decent amount of minutes. Kyle Kuzma is out for Washington, and Suggs is out for Orlando. So that does present some interesting opportunities. I like a couple of guys here. I'm not too excited about them, but certainly can fit them into your lineups. First, on the Orlando side, I really like Cole Anthony tonight, particularly with Suggs out. He and Suggs split minutes on the second team, and with Suggs out, he's going to get a lot more of that run. He actually finished the last game over Gary Harris, so he's out on the floor a lot. They could use his offense in this game and just his playmaking ability. So I really like him. I also like Franz Wagner tonight. I think it's a good matchup for him. He's, kind of being defended by Corey Kispert. I actually got to see Wagner play the other day live against Phoenix, and I really liked his game. I think he's sort of under the radar. I mean, he can play like a big man, but he also handles the ball a lot, and just really like the way he played. So I'm pretty high on Franz Wagner tonight. Wouldn't mind Wendell Carter Jr. either. Good matchup against Gafford, but not, there's a couple other centers I like better, so I'm not like blown away. Banchero's been playing better of late, but he's still, he's pretty pricey. You need to get a 40-plus game out of him, and I'm just not sure that he gets it here. Gary Harris, particularly on DK, 3,600. If you want to go to him and you want to take that chance that he can actually give you a 24, 25 points, but there's also a good chance he gives you 17 fantasy points. So I am not going to go there. On the other side, on Washington, a little less excited. Beal's getting expensive. He's got Gary Harris defense. I think Gary Harris is a pretty good defender. I'm not a fan of Kispert. I don't like Gafford in this matchup. Porzingis is the one guy I'd probably go to, particularly Kuzma out. He's going to get a little more usage on the first team. Good matchup, and he's very solid when he plays. Kuzma being out, a lot of people will be going to Avdija. I'm not a fan of Avdija in this game. I'm not going there. I'm not buying into that. I don't think he's going to have a great game tonight. Just a gut feel of mine, but not going there tonight. Might be interested in a little DeLon Wright. He's getting decent minutes. He's always good for a couple of 2 or 3 steals a game, which I absolutely love. Does particularly well, and from a fantasy standpoint and a points per minute standpoint. And with Kuzma out, he could be getting a few extra minutes. So again, not exactly like, ooh, I've got to go run out and get him, but probably low owned. And with that, let's take a look at ownership. Like I said, I think we'll go through ownership for each game. Just because we can. So over on DraftKings, we'll start there. Highest owned for this game is Franz Wagner. So there are folks who like him like me. He's 6,300. I do see him getting about 35 or so fantasy points. So pretty good, pretty good value there. He's followed by Banchero at 19% ownership. Like I said, I don't think I'm going there, but not a bad price, 7,200. Wendell Carter Jr., 6,900. Bradley Beal is 8,400. That's a good price for him. 17.8% is what he's getting. Like I said, I think I do respect Gary Harris defense. Porzingis is 8,900. I always like him below 9K. He's getting 16% ownership. Avdija, like I mentioned, I'm not a fan tonight. He's only 5K, but 11% ownership. Fultz at 9% ownership, and there's Cole Anthony, 5,900, getting a little lower ownership, which I kind of like because ownership's pretty consolidated tonight. So the more that you can get to guys who are under that 10% ownership, the more likely it is that you're not going to be sharing in a takedown. So I'll go through, let's see, Morris, Kispert, nothing too exciting. Again, like I mentioned, DeLon Wright, 4K and only 4.4% ownership. He's kind of interesting to me. And we will move on. On FanDuel, you got Avdija, again, 29% ownership. People like that 5K salary on FanDuel, but not me, not going there. Porzingis, 24% ownership at 9K. So that is one that I do like. Carter at 7,200. Wagner at 6,700, 22% ownership. It is a lot of ownership. I mean, he's typically not a guy who's going to get you like 50 and really go off, but he's solid from a cash game perspective. Cole Anthony's up to 6,200. It does get a little bit rich, and he is at 15% ownership, so I probably like him more on DK than I do on FanDuel. And after that, no real interest there. I'll quickly check out YAHOO just to see if there are any differences there. Because sometimes their pricing is very different. Here you've got Beal leading the pack, 29% ownership at a $32 price point. Okay. Wagner's at 26% ownership with that $21 price point, and Porzingis 22% ownership. So you really do have very similar ownership projections. I'm taking a look again. You could get like a DeLon Wright, $13 is a little high for him, but he's at 0.2% ownership. So, all right, let's move on to the second game, which is Detroit at Atlanta. So this is a juicy one for sure. I mean, you've got a pretty weak defense. Actually, neither defense is particularly good, but certainly Detroit's defense is weak and Atlanta's offense is good. But predicted to be a very high scoring game, 236. And again, some key injuries. Spread here is 13.5. So that's something to watch for. Does Atlanta run away with this? And does that mean you get guys getting fewer minutes? They're splitting it? Possibly. Although with all the injuries, there are a lot of minutes to go around and not a lot of guys, particularly on the Detroit side of things. So right now for Detroit, we've got Isaiah Stewart out. We've got Duran out. We've got Diallo, Burks out, Bogdanovich out. Livers and Hampton are questionable. It doesn't look like they're going to play, to be honest. And so your starting five is Killian Hayes, Jaden Ivey, Magruder, Bagley, and Weissman. I can't believe Magruder has been lights out. He's one of those guys that I'm like, I'm never going to take him. He's an offensive liability, but they've had so many injuries on that team that he's actually been taking on an offensive role. Doesn't mean I'm going to go to him in this matchup. Who I do like on the Detroit side is Hayes, is Ivy, better than Hayes, frankly. I think he's got more upside than Hayes does. I think he's taking control of the ball more now. And, he is their rookie that they paid a lot of money for. So they got to see what he can do. So I kind of like Ivy slightly better than Killian Hayes tonight. They are priced similarly. The other guy I really like tonight is Bagley. He's not getting as much attention as I expected him to. James Wiseman's getting all the attention. Bagley's kind of on the radar screen, and I think he's got as much upside as Wiseman. So I like him a lot tonight. Definitely going with some Bagley tonight for sure. Do I get to anyone else on this side? It wouldn't be crazy to get some Corey Joseph. He's definitely going to get minutes. And he's been playing well with those minutes. So that's definitely someone I, wouldn't think is crazy, certainly at his price point. But that's about it for me. I'm going to move over to the Atlanta side now, and you've got DeJounte Murray out, which I knew was going to happen this morning. I asked Crash to put Trey on the thumbnail because this is going to be Trae Young's game. Really weak backcourt on Detroit. Trey doesn't have somebody sharing with him on the 2 spot for assists. I fully see Trae Young getting like 11, 12 assists tonight, and just putting up a ton of shots. Again, a little bit of risk of blowout potential, and maybe does he get a slightly fewer minutes? But I still predict him to play a good amount of minutes. The guy that I actually think will play less minutes is Clint Capella. I think he's going to split time with Okongwu, and I really like Okongwu tonight because they need, you've got between Bagley and Weissman, they definitely need a big guy there, and I think they're going to, rest Capella a little bit and just give Okongwu, the young guy facing the young front court of Detroit, give him some more minutes. So I really like him tonight, and I think he is fairly low owned. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. AJ Griffin, he's real cheap given that he's moving in the starting position. Don't mind him at all. He's another guy that I could possibly see. I mean, I would either go with Bogdanovich or Griffin, and maybe Griffin since he's starting, although that Bogdanovich will get his 25 to 28 minutes off the bench. But Griffin has some upside, that's for sure. So I definitely like guys from this game. I'm probably going to go with a 2v2 in this game and go from there. So 236 is the total. So nice and juicy. Taking a look at ownership, you do have Trae Young sitting up there at 45%. Boy, would that be a contrarian play to not play Trae Young? I mean, definitely worth thinking about, because when you have 45% ownership, if that breaks, you stand, you have a good chance at getting some sort of a high position in the leaderboard. So definitely something to think about. Bogdanovich is second at 27% at 4,900. Yeah, he's moved up a bit. I actually would prefer Griffin right below him at 3,400. I think that there's better value there. So I'd probably be going for Griffin on DK. Hunter 5,200. He's one of those guys. I got a handful of guys that I never play because they just burn me, and he is one of them. So if you want to play him, great, but I'm not going there. Clint Capella, pretty cheap, 5,800. But like I said, he's the guy who might get slightly fewer minutes. I'd rather go with the Kongwu, who's at 5K and less ownership. So Capella on DK is at 15% ownership, and a Kongwu is at 9% ownership. So that's where I'd like to put my money. Hayes and Ivy, like I said, 6,500 and 6,700 respectively. They're also showing similar ownership. I prefer Ivy with the upside. And like I said, Wiseman and Bagley, same price, basically 64 and 6,300 respectively. But get this, Wiseman's at 15% ownership and Bagley at 4.4. So if you want to differentiate yourself, go with the Bagley. Okay. Taking a peek now on FanDuel for this game. Detroit, come on. Let's see if there's anything that looks different. Yeah, you still have Trae Young at 40%. I mean, that's crazy. Then you've got Hunter, Bogdanovich. Bagley is up there at 33%. And I think that's because of his pricing. So he's pretty inexpensive at 5,600 from a FanDuel perspective. So that's different. So again, kind of like him on DK where he's going under the radar screen. Griffin, 4,100 is at 20%. And then taking a look at the Capella versus Okongwu, Capella get 18% and Okongwu at 4%. So something to think about. Okay, let's see what's going on. Earl. So my grandma gave me that name, said I ate a lot of peppermints. I love it. All right, Peppy. That's awesome. Doug L also likes Ivy and Bagley and asking who after Trae Young. And that's where I really like Okongwu is probably my second choice over on that side. And Griffin being my third choice. Bev's in. Hey, Bev. Female power. Woo. Thanks for joining. And Alucis, number 5. Glad you could join us. And what would a podcast be without the boy from Cali? How's it going, boy from Cali? Good to see you. Are you enjoying that terrible weather that I'm having too? I mean, man, I'm in Phoenix and it's like freezing cold and raining. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, all right. So let's turn things up for our third game of the evening. And you've got the Cleveland Cavaliers at the Brooklyn Nets. 218.5 spread, lowest, or 218.5 total, lowest of the evening, 4-point spread. So fairly close. Although personally, I think Cleveland, probably locks them down a bit. And this one isn't quite as close. But that being said, you've got Jared Allen, who may be coming back tonight. Unclear. He is still questionable. And really the only guy on Brooklyn is Simmons, who is out. So most of the guys are playing tonight. So what does that mean? It means I'm going to pass this game. I just don't like it. Slow paced game, pretty good defenses on both sides. You've got a lot of guys who could hit or exceed value and a lot of guys who aren't going to quite make value. I think pricing is pretty high. And it's not like you're consolidated to like one or two guys who is going to be getting the lion's share of usage. Garland and Mitchell are both in. Mobley's in. Allen might be in. Over on Brooklyn, between Dinwiddie, Bridges, Cam Johnson, and Claxton, I'm just not sure. I don't have a good feel that any one is going to stand out. When I look at the defensive matches, they're pretty tight. So I am just going to pass this game, and I will share ownership with you guys so that you are aware of what it is. But unless I see something that's like really an outlier, I'm just going to stay away from this game altogether. Yeah, and you've got Darius Garland. It looks like actually most people are staying away from this game because on DraftKings, Darius Garland leads with 15% ownership, and that's respectable. And I think what they're saying is, Dinwiddie's probably the weakest link, and Garland at 7,500 is better than Mitchell at 8,800 against Bridges. Jared Allen, 6,200 is getting 10% ownership. We don't even know if he's playing. And then you go down below 10% with Claxton, Mitchell, Mobley. They're all in the 8 to 9% range. Bridges, if you think Bridges could pull off a good game, he's at 3.9% ownership. That's extremely contrarian. He's lower priced than he has been. And he's going to be good for a bunch of defensive, stocks. But that's pretty risky to spend that salary on him in a game scenario like this. GPP only in my mind. And after that, there's really nobody that interests me. Over on FanDuel, let's see if it's a similar story. So really the field is going away from this game, as am I. Nobody above 10%. Spencer Dinwiddie's at 9.9%, and it goes down from there. And frankly, just everyone's too expensive. Claxton, 7,900, Mitchell, 9,300, Garland, 8,300, Bridges, 8,100, Mobley, 8,400. So just not a place I'm going. All right, Yahoo, it's going to be a similar story is my guess. Let's see. Yahoo, sometimes you can get a little bit different just the way the pricing goes, but you do have Donovan Mitchell at 17.6% ownership because he's $35, but doesn't even excite me. Nick Claxton, 15% at $27, and then lower than 9% from there. So, folks, we are staying away from this game. Now, if you guys feel differently, let me know in the chat. On to the 8 o'clock game. Island 8 o'clock game, and that is the San Antonio Spurs against the New Orleans Pelicans. It is a 231 over under, and it's a spread again, pretty large spread, 13.5. Now, San Antonio has been hanging in there with teams, but they are shredded. I mean, they're playing like the G League team. So this could also be a blowout, which makes me nervous for the Pelicans. Not so much for the Spurs, because the Pelicans, they have Alvarado, Liddell, and Williamson out. Basically, most of their players, playing, they can go pretty deep on the bench. They do have a deep bench. So if they're blowing out, granted, it probably means it's because an Ingram or McCollum scored a lot of points. But it also could mean that those, they split everything and then they just sit the whole fourth quarter. So San Antonio, on the other hand, has Birch out, Collins out, Johnson out, Sochan out, and Vassell out. So all their key guys. And Devontae Graham is questionable. So they are playing Graham potentially. And if Graham doesn't play, they're probably playing Wesley. Then they're playing Branham, McDermott, Bates Diop, and Mamu for starting. So, I think those guys will get more minutes. Are they going to get, 35, 36 minutes each? No, probably not. But they do have to go deeper because, who do they have on the bench? They don't have that many guys on the bench. They've got Wesley, Trey Jones, Langford, and then you're down to Barlow and Georgie Dang. So I do expect all the starters to get, 28 to 32 minutes. Whereas on the Pelicans side of things, because they go so deep, I'm just a little bit concerned that they don't all cross the 30-minute threshold. All right. So what does that mean? Well, it means that on the San Antonio side, there are a lot of guys I like because there's a ton of value. I absolutely like Devontae Graham if he plays. Number one, he's going to be starting as the point guard. He's been playing really well in that starting position for San Antonio. They've got absolutely nobody else, so I see him chucking up a lot of shots. CJ McCollum is not a great defender. And most importantly, because I do believe in this narrative, he used to play for the Pelicans. The Pelicans totally gave up on him. They buried him. And so he's going to want to show up. So I love him if he is playing. If he's not playing, you could look at a Wesley who's incredibly cheap, or a Branham who's, if Wesley starts, not the worst play because he's so cheap. But I do like Branham as well. The other guy I like is Sandro Mamu. He's started a few times in the past couple of weeks as Collins has been sitting on back-to-backs and has performed really well. Now his price has come up a little bit, So he's not my favorite choice, particularly for center, although I do think he qualifies for power forward, but certainly someone that I'm going to be considering given the matchup and the fact that he's going to play a lot of minutes. And then Bates Diop is the other guy I want to keep an eye on. I think he's got a decent offensive game, and particularly in this setup. But he is facing Herbert Jones, who's a really great defender, and I'm not sure he's fully back to health. I'm not sure he's going to get a full allotment of minutes. So I'm going to look for that information, see if we get that. If he's given the go-ahead for full minutes, I do like him. Otherwise, another guy that I'm kind of looking at as a value play would be Romeo Langford. Now, he would be coming off the bench, but that actually doesn't bother me, and I think he'll still get a good amount of minutes given how few people are available on San Antonio. Um, I'll end up with Swan guide. On the New Orleans side, I'm not sure I'm going to end up with anybody. My favorite picks are Trey Murphy and J-Val. Now, J-Val definitely run risks of not getting a lot of could cash in the minutes that where he's in. I would fourth center on not that high, but definitely someone you could consider. And then Trey Murphy's the other guy. Now, I have not been a big Trey Murphy guy, and I know Coach is, but he's been playing a ton of minutes and a little bit under the radar screen with McCollum and Ingram both in there. So I do like him. I think he gets the most minutes out of the group, particularly if this goes if the spread widens, and so somebody to consider. But I may end up with nobody from the Pelican side, to be perfectly honest. All right, let's check out the ownership projections. So back on DraftKings. Going to San Antonio, New Orleans. I'm guessing this one has much higher ownership checkers. Yeah, there we go. Bates Diop, 3,700, 59% ownership. So that alone, I'm going to, there's a lot of chalk we're going to have to eat here tonight. As Boy from Cali tells us, we got to be the evildoers and eat that chalk. But that's not one that I'm willing to. I think there's other value guys there. And like I said, I'm just a little concerned about his minutes and the matchup. Mamu, on the other hand, also high ownership, 49%, but he's 4,200, but he's going to get the minutes. So I do like him. I don't love McCollum, who's listed as third at 8K. I think that's a little bit too high. Same thing with Ingram, 8,600. Now, again, these guys could just smash in this spot, but I'm gonna stay away. J-Val, 6,600. Again, he's someone that I would consider. 14% ownership. Herb Jones, 13% ownership. Trey Jones, he will be coming off the bench most likely, unless, well, actually, probably not if Graham sits. But he's 5,600. He's, Trey Jones has not impressed me as someone who's a real high fantasy points per minute guy. 5,600 is not a bad price, though. So if you think he's going to get 30 minutes, he can probably get you about a 30 fantasy score. Sits at 13%. Good old Doug McDermott, as Coach knows, one of my faves. 3,600, 10%. There's Trey Murphy, 9%. 6,200 is a little bit high, though. So that's just the one thing to watch out for. And we've got Langford down at 5% ownership, which is actually higher than expected. And he's 4K. Devontae Graham's the guy who interests me again. If he plays, he is at 3.2% ownership and 5K. And then I mentioned Blake Wesley at 1% ownership and 3,800. Frankly, I'd rather go with a Wesley than a Bates Diop, just given the ownership differences. Okay, so let's take a look at FanDuel. Mamu at 42% ownership. There's Trey Murphy. So he's below 6K on FanDuel, much better pricing on FanDuel, and he is 28% owned. Ingram up there again, 28% owned, as well as Bates Diop at 25. So people are really liking Bates Diop. And like I said, he does have a good offensive game, but I'm not going to go there. McCollum is at 13% ownership, 8,700, definitely too much. Branham, 5,200, 10% ownership. I like that better. And J-Val, He's 7,500 though. That is pretty high, but only 4.7% ownership. And then Devontae Graham, 5,700, 1.3% ownership. So that's how that game stacks up. How many Spurs is too many Spurs? That sounds like the beginning of a joke. I think, it's, I think I certainly wouldn't go any more than 3. You could definitely do 3, but there's a lot of good games and a lot of good value tonight. And so I'm more likely to go 2 from this team, but certainly you could go 3 and feel comfortable about it, given, given that it's going to be a higher scoring game and given, the minutes that these guys are going to have to play, given how few players there are. So 2 to 3 would be my recommendation there. All right. Boston, Sacramento. This should be an interesting one. This is the highest spread of the night, 238. Sacramento's on the second night of a back-to-back, so something to watch out for there. Boston is finally healthy. Smart is back in. Brown is back in. You don't have, it's funny, I'm actually looking at it right now. It does not show Williams as out, Robert Williams, which is interesting. So I think Robert Williams is actually playing. Now, I don't know who's going to be starting. Right now they're showing Horford. The lineup's not set yet. I'm actually just looking to see. He's lifted from the injury report. Yeah, so he's going to be interesting. So he's going to be playing. That actually changes a couple of things. I did really like Horford, but I thought that Williams was out. Now, Horford will still play well, but he may lose a few minutes to Williams. And the other thing that it does is it makes me reconsider my Sabonis pick, because I like Sabonis a lot tonight. But that was against Horford and like a Cornet or Griffin, not against Williams, who we know is a good defender. So I'm still going to look at Sabonis long and hard. I think his pricing is good. And typically, Boston centers do well against Boston. So I probably will still go there, but it is a little bit of a bummer that he might be seeing some Robert Williams minutes. So hopefully Horford starts and Williams comes off the bench, and then he'd see less of him. But I like this game a lot. I'm definitely going to have 1 or 2 from the Boston side and probably 1 from the Sacramento side. High scoring game. Boston's favored by 5. I think it will stay fairly close. And I think there's some decent values here. I'm in love with Marcus Smart tonight. I think this really could be a Marcus Smart night. He's been really subpar. I think he's been dealing with some injuries. He's off the injury report, but it's a great matchup against Sacramento. Fast-paced game, lots of opportunities for stocks. The defense is not great. I think he can break down the Sacramento defense. I just really like him tonight, and he's not that expensive. So I'm going to be focusing on him a lot. In particular, I think he's very attractively priced on FanDuel. This may also be my pay-up game with either Tatum or Sabonis. I think Tatum is in another great spot. Again, fast-paced game. We don't often take Tatum when both Brown and Tatum are playing, but in this case, I like Tatum. I just think he's due for a big game. And his pricing is not that unreasonable. And he is really fairly low owned, all things considered. So a real interesting contrarian play if you wanted to not play Trey Jones and instead play Jason Tatum. Just saying. Brogdon's another guy I could get to. Again, he's 6-man, but he gets a lot of minutes, and I think this is a good matchup for him. On the Sacramento side, definitely not going back to Kerry Edwards or Kessler Edwards. I got burned the other night with him. He wasn't doing much. Like I mentioned, I do like Sabonis. I think Keegan Murray's pricing is fair. He's been a little bit up and down, though, a little unpredictable. The other guy who's been playing really well has been Monk, somebody to get to. And Trey Lyles is back and has been getting pretty good minutes. Also somebody to think about from a value standpoint. So let's take a look at those ownership projections and see what they reflect. I'm going to go over to DK and Okay, let's see what we got here. We have got so low ownership all around, which is interesting for the highest scoring game on the slate. Something to keep in mind. The highest ownership is Darren Fox at 12%. Now, Darren Fox is 8,300. I mean, that is cheap for Darren Fox, but he is facing Boston's D, which I respect. So I'm probably not going to go there tonight. That's a situation where I'd rather pay up, but very low owned. But even more interesting, Jason Tatum only 10.5 and low owned, 11%. Marcus Smart 5.3, love him tonight, 11% ownership. Brown is at 7.3% ownership. Then you have Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Sabonis. I mean, 10.4 is not too expensive for Sabonis. That's pretty much where he's been, 3.6% ownership. I absolutely love that. So super interesting there. Trey Lyles, like I mentioned, 4K, 2.4% ownership. You're going down. Horford, 56K, again, as a cash player, 2% ownership. Got to love that. And even lower, Brogdon, 1.2% ownership, 5,800, and Malik Monk, 5,200, 1.7% ownership. So I don't know where the ownership is on this game. It may change, but for right now, this to me is looking like a super interesting game to be getting some, I'm not saying stack up, but to definitely be getting some exposure to. Again, high scoring game, fairly close, and this kind of ownership, crazy. So Marcus Smart over on FanDuel is getting 21% ownership. I really love him here. Wish the ownership was less, but I'll still go with it. Tatum, 6% ownership. Brogdon, 5% ownership. Sabonis, now he's up to 11K, which is pricey, but he's at 1% ownership. I don't know the last time Sabonis was at 1% ownership. And then you go down and you have the likes of Horford and Monk at like 0.3 and 0.1% ownership. It's crazy. Something's up with this game. So if anybody knows, let me know, because I'm just loving this game with the ownership as it is. I'm going to look on Yahoo for this one, because if it's similar, it's super interesting. All right, let's see. Yeah, Tatum at 15%, Fox at 15%. You've got Sabonis at 4%. Now he's $45, but I don't know. That's pretty darn good. But even better, Marcus Smart, 3.8%, $18. I love it. So, yep, lots of good options here, guys. So let me see. What do we got? Charlie's in. Hey, Charlie, how's it going? And Joe K, glad you guys could join. Hopefully you're catching up on things. Hopefully we've got some great lineups for you tonight. Doug L asks, is Smart a smart play? One of the smartest. Gotta love it. And if Williams is on a minute restriction, it could give Sabonis an edge. 100%. I think he will be. I don't think he plays more than 24 minutes tonight. And even there, he might not even start. So I do like Sabonis tonight. Okay, let's see. We are rounding things out, guys. We're down to the last game of the evening. It is OKC at the Clippers. So it's funny. Well, I guess our three biggest, we've got one of the early games, but then the two late night games. We're having some late night sweat, because those are the two highest totals, actually. 239 Boston, Sacramento, and 237 for OKC and the Clippers. So what's going on in this game? OKC completely healthy, nobody on the injured list. And for the Clippers, the only guys out are Boston and Powell, who I don't play Powell anyway, so I don't care. It is a 7-point spread. 237 is the over-under, and this is going to be a good game. So, OKC has really surprised a lot of people. I'm actually kind of surprised that it's a 7-point spread. I might have to go play play OKC in this one, because they've really, I watched them play against Phoenix the other day, and they look pretty good. Well coached, a lot of young guys who are playing hard. So who do I like? Well, Shea's been amazing, but he's probably not. I like some of the other higher priced guys tonight, so he's probably not who I'm going after. But if you wanted to, I'm certainly okay with that. He might get Paul George defense, but more likely Westbrook. So definitely okay with that. I really like Jalen Williams tonight. Jalen without the Y. I think he's in a really good spot tonight. Now he hasn't been playing as well as of late, and his price is high, so I'm guessing his ownership is going to be low as well. Might be someone I'm interested in a GPP play. I really don't want to get to the bench on OKC. It's really tough to figure out the bench between Joe and Dang and Saric and Wiggins and even Waters now, like who's going to get the minutes and who's going to score. But I do think, I do think Shea and Williams are good plays. Dort's an interesting play. He's going to be out there for his defense. He's not a high points per minute guy, though. So depending on where his perspective, he'd be okay. But he's been playing well lately. And like I said, they need him in there for his defense, but he's sort of a little bit, streaky as it comes to so probably not place. On the Clippers side of things, I'm actually going probably contrarian from people. I am not going to go with the big guys. I respect that, and even though it is a higher scoring game, that's the only thing is, given the high score, you do have sort of Paul George phenomenon, which is similar to like a Mitchell and Garland, where you just don't know who's going to be getting it, or a Tatum and a Brown. And in this case, they're both similarly priced and similarly owned. So Kawhi Leonard is 9,500 on DK, 12.3% ownership. Paul George, Paul George is all the way up to 9,300. That's super high for Paul George. He's usually in the 8s. And he's at 11% ownership. And then you've got, as I mentioned, Shea Gilgeous. He's at 10% ownership. And Josh Giddey's also 10% ownership. So, everyone's pretty much around the same ownership and a lot of the same pricing. So that makes me not love it. So personally, I'm not going to go and spend the money on a Leonard or George. I'd rather get Tatum at even lower ownership, or then maybe like the Trae Young, who, high ownership, but he's going to be the man in that game, which is also a high-scoring game. What I like is Zubac. I think it's a really good matchup for Zubac. I think, as we know, OKC is the worst team in the league against centers. He's been playing pretty well. He's played them twice this year. I think he had 46 DK points and over 60 points in the other two meetings. Super interesting. And only 6.6% ownership and $5,900. So he's someone who you can fit in, particularly on DraftKings, where you can have those two centers. And I do like him. And the other guy, again, I'm going to go contrarian here, but it's Eric Gordon, 1.4% ownership. And he's only 4,700. With Powell out, he is unanimously the sixth man. He's going to get minutes. And, against OKC's second team, I like him a lot. So that's where I'm going. Let's take a look on FanDuel and see if it's similar. Giddey's getting phenomenal ownership on FanDuel because he's only 7,300. But you've got George and Leonard, again, both above 9K, both at 15% ownership, just not going there. And then Shea Gilgeous at 10.6, 12% ownership. Jalen Williams, 7,400. So that does start to get a little high for me. So may not be going there on FanDuel. But I do like Zubac, 6,900. I don't know. That's pretty rich for me as well. I don't like him as much as I do Gordon at 5,100, and again, 1.3% ownership. The guy to go to on FanDuel, believe it or not, could be Marcus Morris, 4,200. He has not been playing great, but this is a good matchup. And that 4,200 on FanDuel can't be beat. So he might just be the guy that I go to from this team on FanDuel. Okay. Let's see what we got. Summing things up here. Nathan's joining us. Hey, Nathan Feudy, what's up, man? And King of All Trades is in for the Tuesday night slate vibes. You know it. Tuesday night. It's like Taco Tuesday. We're gonna have a takedown. It's Takedown Tuesday. Boy from Cali says no Kawhi, no money tonight. So what are you saying, man? Are you saying that if you don't play Kawhi, you're not going to win? Is that really the case? I don't know about that. I don't know. Lou Dort defense, I respect it. I mean, he's going to have a good game, but is he going to smash more than Trae Young or more than Jason Tatum or, some of these other guys? Sabonis. I'm not sure. Let's lay the bet down. We'll see. Anyway, I'm pumped about tonight. I think I've got a few good positions on lineups, and I'll share everything with you guys in Discord. We'll go in. I think the first game is a 7:00 start. Let me double check. I think it's a 7:00 start, in which case we will be sharing lineups at 6:30 Eastern. We do have one game at 7. So I'll be in there sharing lineups shortly, and I hope you guys win big. Wish you all luck. And tomorrow you'll be back with Crash as we look to continue to crush it in NBA DFS. Take care.